All right, we are watching two breaking news stories to the right of your screen, waiting to hear from Eric Cantor, the majority leader who was ousted at a primary battle only yesterday. In fact, he was walloped. What are his plans now? To the left of your screen, they're taking up John McCain and Bernie Sanders' co-sponsored bill to reform the Veterans Administration. Among some of the things they're looking for in that measure is a means by which veterans can get care pronto, something that orthopedic surgeon Scott Barber says should have happened a long time ago. Doctor, a key provision here is that if vets can't get the care they need when they need it, give them a voucher, they can go to any other hospital and get it. What do you make of that?
I mean, I think that's a good start, Neil. You know, we've known for a long time that our veterans have been getting inferior care at government-run healthcare outlets. You know, the VA hospitals have always been a problem. You know, most doctors work at VA hospitals when we go through medical school and residency, and we see how a top-down government-run bureaucracy is just not the way to implement health care.
You know, there are problems, too, with how you fire people at the VA. And the reason why we're told, Doctor, that a lot of people have passed up taking over the VA is because they really don't have much power to fire people, demote people, move people around. Now, in both the House legislation and the Senate legislation, there are protections to do that. But there are no guarantees that that will be in the final bill. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I actually don't think that's ever going to happen. You know, that is a big problem at the Veterans Administration is there is no accountability. There's no accountability for the money that's spent or for the services that are rendered. And at the end of the day, the vets are the ones that pay the price. I remember one time in my own experience, I was working through lunch to try and take care of a high volume of patients, and my tech stayed and he worked with me. He ended up getting suspended for 2 weeks for not taking his lunch break. It's that sort of mentality that gets passed along to the veterans. And, you know, I had the great honor in my time to take care of people who are wounded in places like Iwo Jima and Guadalcanal and Normandy, and I'll get to tell my grandchildren about that someday. But, you know, our vets deserve better. And, you know, I believe President Obama should make an executive order and make it so that our vets can go get private health care.
Yeah, well, he's been doing executive orders for everything else. Doctor, thank you very, very much. Well, making veterans wait, but not wasting a nanosecond, spending money on a whole host of other things. If my next guess is right, the VA shelled out tens of millions of dollars on a national ad campaign like the one you're looking at here. Don't ask. And on programs to make its facilities more green. Again, don't ask. Alison Barber is here with the Washington Free Beacon covering this story. It just sounds like, to me, again and again, misplaced priorities.
Right, it is. There's clearly this is further evidence of mismanagement. What this is a story that we have in the Free Beacon by one of our reporters, Mary Lou Bird. And basically is what she's found that over the last 5 years, the VA has spent $1.3 billion on support and professional services. A total of 10,171 contracts have qualified and been listed under that term professional services. And what it includes are things like what you just mentioned, spending millions of dollars in 2010, 11, and 12 on commercials, and then also on things like energy production, trying to make VA facilities more energy efficient, as well as spending money in contracts for surveys to see if the VA is actually complying with VA standards. And so they've spent a lot of money over the last 5 years on a host of different things.
What I always wonder about, if we know this was happening, and obviously it has a $170, $180 billion budget, so there's going to be waste, there's going to be, you know, the stupid stuff. But it's not a matter, it sounds to me, that the veterans are needing more money. It's just making better use of the money it's got, because it seems to have more than enough money.
Right, and it's interesting because when all these problems started coming out that we started hearing about VA, some people pointed to it as perhaps it was an issue of funding, and you will remember in the past Democratic senators have pushed for giving more funding to the VA, but clearly they really do have a lot of money. And what it looks like when you look at examples like these contracts that they have is it looks like they're just essentially not managing the money appropriately, and they could be using it in better forms. I mean, if you're spending millions of dollars to put out commercials, that's fine. They're putting out commercials saying that to advocate for the benefits that they have, but if you're not able to actually deliver that care and those benefits to the veteran, then why are you spending, you know, upwards of at least $10.2 million on just 2 commercials? It seems silly, and that's something where someone inside the system should have been saying, hey, we need to make sure we're using our money more appropriately and making sure it's actually focusing on our first priority, which is going to be the care aspect.
Alison, thank you very, very much. Alison Barber of the Washington Free Beacon. All right, taking it back to Washington, these two developing stories right now. Obviously waiting to hear from Eric Cantor and what his plans are now. To the right of your screen, to the left, as Ellison was pointing out, a measure that is coming up over reforming the Veterans Administration. This is not exactly like the bill that passed unanimously in the House of Representatives by 426-0 vote, as a matter of fact. This one waters down some of the sort of job protection and guarantees that are inherent at the VA and the source of problems for a lot of people not wanting to take over the VA. So they would have to reconcile those differences very quickly, then get the measure off to the president for signature, and then address the problems in a major revamp of the VA itself. So while this is moving at lightning speed for Washington, still not fast enough for VA, where a lot of folks just wait and wait and wait for care. The average wait time there now north of 90 days for acute care, north of 60 days, involving, by latest count, north of 70,000 veterans.